Welcome to this Tube Duel Original Explainer. I am so incredibly excited you're joining us today because we are diving in to the absolutely dramatic roller coaster story of the company that literally gave the mobile phone to the world. Yep, we're talking about Motorola.
Here's a riddle for you. How does the exact company that invented the actual physical concept of a cell phone end up fighting for its life? How do they just fade into the background, get sold off, not once but twice, and then suddenly roar back in 2026 with one of the most powerful devices on the planet? It sounds completely made up, like a movie script, but this is real life. So let's explore this incredible narrative: a powerful rise, a rapid fall, and a very, very carefully calculated comeback.
Part 1. The first mobile phone. To really understand their massive comeback today, we've got to rewind all the way back to 1928. They actually combined the word motor with Victrola, which meant sound equipment, to create the name Motorola, basically sound in motion.
Way before consumer cell phones were even a thought, Motorola was building mission-critical tech. You know, the kind of stuff where failure literally isn't an option. In July 1969, Motorola actually built the equipment that relayed Neil Armstrong's famous first words from the moon all the way back to Earth. They were building tech for NASA, the military, the police. That deep, intense focus on reliability, it was just baked right into their DNA.
And that brings us to the moment that changed everything. April 3rd, 1973. Motorola engineer Martin Cooper is standing on a sidewalk in Manhattan, and he makes the very first handheld mobile phone call. And get this, who did he call? His rivals over at AT&T, just to tell him he won the race. Talk about a flex, right? But here's why this is absolutely crucial. Before this day, if you made a call, you called a place, a house, an office. After this call, you called a person. Communication was suddenly tied to the individual, a real game changer.
To really put into perspective how much things have changed, just look at the commercial version of that first phone, the Dynatac 8000X, released in 1983. People literally called it the brick. It weighed 2.5 pounds, was 10 inches tall, and cost nearly $4,000. Just compare that to the smartphones we all have today. They weigh just a few ounces, slip right into your pocket, and cost a tiny fraction of that price. And hey, if you think your battery life is bad today, get this. The Dynatac required a massive 10 hours of charging. And what did you get for those 10 hours? Just 30 minutes of talk time. 30! It sounds totally crazy to us now, but at the time, this was an absolute miracle of modern technology. Okay, so moving into part 2. The golden age. Because after basically inventing the market, Motorola rode this massive wave of success right into the 90s and 2000s.
By 1995, an unbelievable 45% of the entire world's cellular phone market belonged to Motorola. Almost half the globe was walking around using their devices. They were, without a doubt, the absolute kings of mobile communication.
And they were making phones that everyone wanted to buy. In 1996, the StarTAC drops, becoming the first true luxury flip phone. Then in 2002, they put out the Moto V70 with this crazy, completely unique spinning rotary design. But the biggest hit? That came in 2004 with the Razr V3. Ultra-thin, made of metal, it was a massive cultural phenomenon. If you had a Razr, you were cool, period. They sold 130 million units of that single phone. But, as we'll see in part 3, the giant falls, because success can be incredibly dangerous, and this era serves as a pretty stark cautionary tale. You see, at their core, Motorola was a hardware company. They built amazing physical machines. But then, the smartphone revolution hits. Suddenly, the whole world wanted touchscreens, apps, and software ecosystems. And because Motorola was so heavily invested in hardware, they hesitated. They were just too slow to adopt new software. And because of that hesitation, they quickly lost ground to companies like Nokia and, of course, Apple. The decline was fast and, honestly, pretty brutal. In 2011, the company actually had to split in two. Just a year later, Google buys Motorola Mobility, which everyone thought was going to be their saving grace. But it didn't really pan out. By 2014, Google unloads Motorola to Lenovo for $2.91 billion. It's hard to believe how fast they went from industry kings to being passed around like a hot potato. A lot of people really thought the brand was just finished. But don't count them out just yet. Let's look at part 4, the big comeback. Under Lenovo, Motorola basically went completely quiet for almost a decade to strategically rebuild. So, how exactly did they pull it off? Well, step 1, they stuck to clean Android software.
No heavy, confusing, cluttered menus. Step 2. They hyper-focused on things normal people actually care about, like battery life. I mean, their Moto G Power phone lasted 3 whole days on a single charge. And step 3, they were patient. They waited for the absolute perfect moment in the market to release a true top-tier premium phone.
And all that patience leads us to right now, early 2026. Motorola just announced the release of their brand new flagship device. They're calling it, simply, the Motorola Signature. No extra numbers, no confusing buzzwords, just a highly anticipated, incredibly confident statement that they are back at the absolute top of the tech world.
Let's dive into what makes this phone so incredibly special. It features the brand new Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 chip, which unlocks what we call on-device AI. Now, what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means the phone's artificial intelligence works directly inside the physical device. It doesn't even need to connect to the cloud to think. This makes stuff like live translation or complex photo editing lightning fast, and maybe more importantly, keeps all your data totally private.
Another completely fascinating upgrade is the new silicon carbon battery. To picture how this works, just imagine a box filled with tennis balls. There's a ton of empty space in there, right? Now imagine filling that exact same box with sand instead. You can fit way more inside. That's basically what this battery's doing. It packs massive amounts of power into a really thin, premium design.
And check out this number, 6,200 nits. That's the peak brightness of the screen. To put that into perspective, most standard laptops are sitting at around 500 nits. So this means you could literally be standing outside in the absolute harshest, brightest sunlight of the day, and your screen is still going to look perfectly clear and sharp. It just cuts straight through the glare. No squinting required. But you know, here is where Motorola is making its boldest statement, the price tag. For the last 10 years, they've really been known for those budget-friendly, mid-tier phones. But the 2026 Signature, it's priced right up there between $1,100 and $1,200. They are looking directly at giants like Apple and Samsung and demanding to be taken seriously as an absolute equal. It's a huge risk, for sure, but it shows total, unwavering confidence. So as we wrap up today, I kind of want to bring us right back to where we started. In 1969, Neil Armstrong's famous words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," those were broadcast using Motorola technology. They have this DNA of deep resilience. They survived the total crash of their business because they never really lost that core engineering spirit. They've always known how to build truly great things. Which leaves us with one final question to chew on. Has the original inventor of the mobile phone finally reclaimed its crown? Look, we live in a world that absolutely loves the next shiny new startup. But maybe, just maybe, there's even more value in a company that can survive massive failure, learn from its mistakes, and completely reinvent itself. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you learned something new today, and I'll see you next time.